talk about the big one, the culmination of this entire controversy, the reaction of gamers and Gamergate.
Here we go. This is something that's been building up for a long time until it finally imploded upon itself and has torn the gaming community apart. I want to say that things are starting to rebuild itself, but the ground seems rather unstable. Now, I already covered how Anita Sarkeesian started a Kickstarter to discuss sexism in gaming, and that's where the whole thing started. Anita wasn't really liked by some YouTubers for her extreme radical feminist views, but she got infamous because those who did not like her gave her all the free publicity that she could ever dream of, causing her Kickstarter to go viral. Then things went silent for 9 months until she posted her first video in the series, which didn't cause much of a problem. It got viewed and a lot of people who made responses to her disagreed. Then the second video was made, same response. By the third video, people started to respond with a little hostility. The fourth video was met with about the same amount of hostility as the third. Then the fifth video, which was Women as Background Decorations Part 2, was released, and nothing happened. It seemed like no one cared and paid little attention to her. The video was not getting the views that others did. In fact, each of her videos was getting less and less views, and the fifth set a record for the lowest views. I know, because I saw it.
What happens next is a series of events that happen very close to each other in a massive explosion, so I'm gonna list them off in the order that I saw them in.
A few days after she posted that fifth video, Anita published a picture on Twitter where she says that she doesn't normally share the harassment or threats that she gets. In the picture is a series of tweets where someone is saying sexual things, threats of violence, and rape. Gaming websites went nuts all over this, and reposted her Women as Background Decorations Part 2 video that she uploaded in the same article discussing the threatening nature of the tweets, and how she fled her home in fear of her own safety, and all that caused the video to explode with views. It got more views in more time than the previous one did, and still does have more views. Now, there is a theory that Anita sent herself those tweets. Someone had analyzed that no one was logged in, and the screenshot was taken 12 seconds after the final tweet. You can do a Google search on it and easily find it. I haven't seen anyone talk about it, so I think it was dismissed as a conspiracy theory, and even if she did do it, she's smart enough to not file a phony police report, as some websites have confirmed that they talked to her local police department and said that the case was handed over to the FBI Cyber Division. It's totally possible that she had a friend take the screenshot for her after giving the harasser's name, and that person wasn't logged in, as once you search for something on Twitter and then go to someone's Twitter page, the search bar clears.
But then we have Zoe Quinn, and I've brought this up in a video beforehand. Why does anyone care about her?
Zoe Quinn is a female game developer who made a free game called Depression Quest, although from what I've seen, it's more of a PowerPoint presentation than a game. Some people noted that gaming media gave the game more press and praise than it deserved. What happened next was that her ex-boyfriend had written a blog post, stating that Zoe had started sexual relationships with a supposed 5 gaming website writers, one of them being Nathan Grayson from Kotaku, which led people to saying that he wrote a positive article for the game, although editor-in-chief Stephen Tolio confirmed the relationship, but said that Grayson never wrote anything before the relationship. But Grayson did write an article about her 2 months before the relationship began. Now I ask you, who cares? Do you honestly care that Quinn had a sexual relationship with 5 game writers? She made a free-to-play interactive slideshow. What's the big deal? If it got so much praise and press, how come I never heard about it until the whole Gamergate controversy? Maybe I'm desensitized from watching all these women that show up on the Maury Povich show who slept with 20 guys and can't find the father of their child. But I don't care if Zoe slept with an alleged 5 people. It's her life and she can do whatever she wants. Just because someone aired out her dirty laundry, it's not a big deal, and it was blown out of so much proportion that there was really no need for the reaction that it got.
Now, I know that may have sounded a little anti-Gamergate, but is an indie female developer sleeping with a game reviewer really that big of a deal? Especially when we have all these AAA publishers paying for good reviews and flagging bad ones?
Gamergate has been a long time coming. However, for it to have been successful, it needed leadership, which it didn't have. It was a hashtag on Twitter, something that you can't control. But I'm not going to say that the reactions that Anita Sarkeesian, Brianna Wu, and Zoe Quinn are a result of misogyny, because I don't believe that they are the targets of misogyny. I think that the harassment they got is a result of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. The boiling pot spilled over and they got burned. And that's not fair to call the gaming community misogynistic because they were the targets of harassment by males. But at least Brianna Wu and Zoe Quinn decided to do something about the harassment. Zoe Quinn started an anti-bullying site, and Brianna Wu started a legal defense fund for women who have been targets of Gamergate. I applaud them for their efforts, but I am going to add an addendum to this in a bit, so if you have a comment about it, I suggest holding off until I add that addendum. However, I condemn Anita Sarkeesian for her actions as she continues to demonize the entirety of male gamers, and she continues to use the harassment against her as a stepladder to further her own career. She capitalizes on anything she can twist into negativity towards herself or any woman to bring attention to herself, so that she can profit from it, and I don't believe that her feminist frequency is a non-profit organization, only calling it that so she doesn't have to pay taxes on her income. I also applaud all the gamers who have been standing up and speaking out against Anita's claims of misogyny, a word that she uses so much that I don't think she even knows the definition of, because she's created a shitstorm while she laughs all the way to the bank.
So many gamers have been absolutely disgusted with the industry's reaction, essentially making them feel bad for the games that they buy and enjoy. There was even a fight that broke out between a YouTuber and a game developer.
Tim Schafer had seen Anita's videos and said that the gaming industry really needed to do better with the way it treats women. And JonTron had spoken out against the videos, saying that Anita is portraying men as savages, and that he didn't like it because he's not a savage. Tim responded in a way that made JonTron look like he was attacking and harassing him, which caused all of Tim's fans to attack and harass JonTron. It was quickly rectified and Tim and John settled their differences and cleared the air. But that should give you a glimpse at how much of a problem this whole controversy has caused. Gamers are saying that nothing needs to be changed because the industry is heading towards that all-inclusive demographic. Male YouTubers like Boogie10998, Angry Joe, and Alpha Mega Sin have spoken about this before, and they say that it's not a male against female problem. It's not about misogyny, it's just a toxicity problem. But more on that in a bit, because I want to address an article about how the word gamer is dying. The article sent a lot of people into a rage. The article was talking about how the toxicity was killing the gamer moniker. I think that the article could have been written a lot better and more gamer-friendly. And that's really the issue here. No one has taken into account the feelings of gamers. Everyone just looks at them like these basement-dwelling nerds who hate women because of the stereotype that they're losers.
Really? How insulting is it for someone who knows absolutely nothing on games to dismiss it as something for nerdy losers? Does that mean Vin Diesel, an avid gamer and D&D player, is a nerdy loser too?
That was really the reason why I started this. No one was really taking into account how gamers were feeling about being called misogynistic, basement-dwelling, nerdy losers on a regular basis. Sam Whittle of Gawker affiliate Valley Wag said that Gamergate proves that nerds need to be constantly shamed and degraded into submission and to bring back bullying. That doesn't solve an issue. That just throws more gas onto the fire. Biddle eventually said that the tweets were jokes and apologized, but only in response to the car manufacturer Mercedes pulling its ads from Gawker and Adobe requesting that Gawker take down their logo from their advertiser section because they do not promote bullying. And in a Columbia Journalism review, they said that even though the tweets were jokes, that it's no secret that Gawker is the bully of the internet. Which is pretty true. A lot of gamers were against Kotaku in this whole debacle. Gamers were getting tired of this insulting, snarky hipster attitude that these gaming sites were giving off. So when Gamergate broke out, of course they took a stance against it. People were criticizing them in their comment section to the point where they started moderating it, silencing anything that they didn't like and continuing to parade around the air of superiority, as if they had the upper hand when it came to the whole thing. Unfortunately, they didn't, and I think they decided to bow out of the controversy when it was getting too hot to handle, as Kotaku has gotten more gamer-friendly recently. At least it appears that way.
In the end, I don't think Gamergate actually succeeded, but I don't think it failed either. It was just something that really needed to run its course.
Remember that addendum I mentioned earlier about Brianna Wu and Zoe Quinn? Well, I think that they turned the negativity against them into something positive to benefit others. They should have just kept their mouths shut. I say that because they didn't say anything to make a bad situation better. Zoe Quinn should have just reported the threat she got to the police and said nothing to the press, and she should have just laid low. Brianna Wu should never have said anything on Twitter about Gamergate. If she had never spoke out against Gamergate on Twitter, more than likely she never would have become a Gamergate target. Gaming media sites should have just let it run its course as well and not comment on it. I was getting so tired of the gaming community tearing itself apart, and when things were starting to settle, someone would come in and throw more fuel on the fire, making it blow up again. Which is one of the reasons why I waited until it blew over. Because gamers are very competitive. That's the nature of gaming itself. If gamers aren't competing against computer-controlled opponents, they're competing against each other. Gamers like to win, and I will say that those in the Gamergate movement were persistent. And maybe they did win by default, as the gaming media has effectively given up on trying to push the fact that Gamergate and those who support it are a band of misogynistic men who want to keep some non-existent status quo.
But, and this is a big but here, there were some people in the Gamergate movement that, well, for a lack of a better term, were the bad apple that spoiled the barrel.
I'm not going to deny that there were people in the Gamergate movement that were targeting female developers or game article writers and were harassing them, and that's just wrong. Even if they were poking the gorilla with a stick. Because going after these people and sending them threatening or harassing messages only continues to prove people like Anita Sarkeesian right. And I know that none of you want that. You want her to be disproven. So don't do things that would prove her correct. I am not saying that you cannot have an opinion. I am not saying that you cannot have emotions. And I am not saying that you cannot be a miserable prick of an asshole to somebody. But do it intelligently. Don't send Anita Sarkeesian rape and death threats because she's only going to capitalize on it. She benefits from your hatred of her and uses it to her advantage to gain more press. And she continues to demonize you as a male and a gamer. Just ignore her. Don't give her the time of day. If you feel you have the need to say something, then channel it into a reasonable statement, like that you extremely disagree with her thesis and quote the studies that prove that video games do not cause negative behavior.
Look, you guys are gamers. You play games where strategy is the key to winning. And with the way things are going and the way people are playing, gaming as a whole is gonna get the bad ending right now.
I say that because you shouldn't be saying harassing things to Anita Sarkeesian. No, I'm not white knighting. I'm saying that if you harass her, you're only proving her right. You want to prove her wrong, ignore her. Pretend she doesn't exist. She's only getting the attention she gets because of the harassment. And I also say that because I don't think that the gaming community is full of misogynistic people. I do know that there's a lot of trash talking, and I see nothing wrong with that. There's trash talking in regular sports and card games, and I've even seen trash talk in board games. I didn't see anything wrong with trash talk. It can add some much needed comic relief to these intense matches. My friends and I did it all the time in Smash Brothers. And really, if you're going to jump into a game with people, especially people you do not know, where you can talk to each other, you're going to have to develop some thick skin. Gaming is 99% mental, 1% physical. If you can throw your opponent off their game, you're going to do it. Like when I play card games. I used to hate it when people would constantly make that flapping sound with the cards in their hand as it made it difficult to concentrate. Eventually I tuned it out, but you can see where I'm coming from. If someone is trash talking to you, you either ignore it or counter it if you can come up with something witty on the spot. So if a guy says he's going to rape you, tell him that you'd be surprised if he could rape anything with that skin tag he calls a penis.
There was this one time I was playing World of Warcraft. I was in a heroic 5-man dungeon and things were going horrible. Hilarious, but horrible. So this one girl chimes in and she's pretty pissed off and she's yelling at everyone to get their act together. This one guy says, "There's a girl in here?" And she replies with the funniest comeback I've ever heard. She said, "Yeah, and guess who's got the bigger dick?" I was laughing so hard that I just logged out because I could not keep my composure.
We're guys. We say horrible things to each other all the time, but we don't mean it. We joke about it. We bust each other's balls. Although I think that when the media starts making gamers look badly, and I mean really badly, point where Law & Order makes a really bad episode about Gamergate, we can ease up on being the rowdy bunch that we are. I do think that we as gamers need to improve our image just a bit. There is a problem with toxicity, but it's really only a select few out of the bunch. Not all gamers are like that, but it's always the small yet very, very loud minority that gets all the attention. So when the media is reporting on gamers negatively, even when the vast majority of us are saying that we're not all like that, we're ignored. And I would assume that most of the toxicity is coming from the younger crowd, mostly from the prepubescent to teenage years, who probably don't know the ramifications of their actions or are exploring their boundaries in what is and isn't acceptable behavior and are just parroting what they hear on the internet because they thought it was funny. As I said in my violence in video games video, it's more of a parenting issue. I think that some parents should step in and curb their kids' behavior. And the social justice warriors are taking what these kids are doing and are using it in some stupid war so they don't have to feel uncomfortable about something that they were never interested in, even when it never bothered them anyway.
Seriously, what's with people saying that the well is poisoned? The water's a little dirty, but that's why we have filtration systems.
Is the toxicity in the gaming community bad? Yes, but is it a problem? Not really, considering that there are more problems in the gaming industry, like $60 games having $150 worth of DLC, and none of it is in the $25 season pass, companies releasing unfinished games and apologizing for them only to repeat the process, putting microtransactions for in-game currency so that you can actually progress through a game. A small group of 9-year-olds calling people faggots is the least of our concerns. And sensationalizing this bratty behavior only encourages others to follow, so that way they can see if they can get their own 15 minutes of fame. And the media loves it because it's clickbait, and clickbait is how they make their money. They want gamers to be these toxic subhuman spores of goblin flesh, so they can get the views they so desperately crave. That's where the NotYourShield hashtag came in. Gamers were so tired of getting blamed for things that a very small minority were doing. The gaming media taking these bad apples and claiming that the whole crop was tainted, because it suited their purposes of deflecting all the blame they got that they deserved. So no, I don't believe Gamergate is a misogynistic movement about men trying to keep the status quo by keeping women out of games like how Anita Sarkeesian believes. And the fact that she said that out loud on the Colbert Report and no one said to her, "Wow, that's really crazy that you believe something that stupid," is actually a surprise.
Now, we're going to do a little experiment. I want you to say that sentence out loud. Don't worry, I'll sit here and wait. Now, doesn't that sound crazy?
Seriously, what guy would actually concern himself with trying to keep women out of the gaming industry or from playing video games? Or from there being more female protagonists? That guy who bought 100 Rosalina amiibos just to prevent other people from buying them because he hates the female characters on the Smash Bros. Roster and is the only person I can think of. But obviously that person is crazy himself and stupid for wasting around $1,300. Really, where does this mentality come from? How can someone make this huge jump in logic where just because one game doesn't appeal to women, that all games must be inherently sexist? Granted, that's the perfect example of a straw man argument, taking one thing and creating a similar but different argument to defeat the original one. All because first-person shooters or action games are targeted at men? Yeah, more men play first-person shooters, but women play more RPGs. I remember doing heroics in the Cataclysm expansion of World of Warcraft, and I got matched with 4 female blood elves who were in a guild that only consisted of female players. And when it comes to character creations, male players who create female characters rarely make a character slutty. And I mean actually slutty, not a seductive female assassin. That's different because the character isn't a slut, but using her looks to achieve a mission goal. Although I will say that I've seen more women create pretty offensive homosexual male characters. And I used to have a friend that would make really slutty bimbo characters all the time. And it was because he was really immature. And that's how he preferred women to be.
And that guy went on to make a really shitty game. It got greenlit on Steam, but only his friends have recommended it.
I don't think it's fair to demonize an entire group because of a few jerks that are in it. Because the thing is, there's assholes in any group. Look at all the corrupt politicians out there who are in the back pockets of these huge businesses. Or they try to pass stupid laws because it benefits them and them only. I can understand gamers being angry about being seen as savages, because the social justice warriors are labeling them in that way. And honestly, they're the real bullies here. You're demonizing an entire group because of a few rogue members. Although that seems to be the MO for most media and social justice warriors here in America lately. I think that Gamergate was something that was going to happen eventually. At some point, gamers were going to get tired of being labeled negatively, and all that anger just exploded. And when the people who sparked the fire got hit, they in turn responded in a negative fashion as well. It's like poking a lion until it attacks you and you get mad at it for attacking. Look, both sides made some bad choices in all of this, whether they were for it or against it, but I think at the core there was and still is a noble reason. But again, it was just something that needed to blow over, and seems that everyone, except certain people, have learned a lesson and have moved on from what I can say was a conflict that was always going to happen, and it resulted in a stalemate.
And next week we're going to wrap all this up because we're going to discuss how we can solve this problem that social justice warriors created where there was no problem.